This indeed shows my age. The police, every breath you take. Wonderful. First of all, thank you very much, Temasek, to make this all possible. And of course also my old friends of PwC, looking all around me, and all the bands. It feels a bit like Hotel California to stay in the music. So let us start. So who are we? Who is GRI? And where do we come from? What not many people know is that we are originally a US organization founded in Boston by Ceres in 1997. And since then we have been growing our ups and downs, and if we have seen the latest PwC research, a lot of ups lately. And there are some topics that you see on this sheet that I'm quite proud of. Let's start with the 1 million downloads of our standards last year. That's quite massive, but what I think is even more interesting is to see that GRI is a real global standard. More than 50% of the downloads was not in the English language. We are currently available in 13 languages, 2 more coming up, Turkish and Korean, 3 more coming up, Bahasa Malaysian. The other thing that I think is quite substantial is that the top 250 78% uses GRI, and if you've just seen 81% of the listed company in the Asian bloc. So apparently there are quite some organizations that think it is meaningful to voluntarily disclose information on which we provide a standard. In fact, 32 topic-specific standards. That's quite something. Something that I don't see here, but that is also something to reflect on. A report by IFAC of a couple of months ago showed that of all filed and reported GRI reports, 39% are being accompanied by assurance, by an external service provider. That's quite massive, especially taking into account that it will become mandatory in Europe, but Patrick will go on that a bit further, I guess. Looking at the percentage of SASB, that is 7%, which is interesting because that's for this financial materiality on behalf of investors. We are voluntarily, and as you may know, on behalf of a multi-stakeholder audience and on impact, we go to that in a minute, and that apparently has a far higher amount of external assurance, which apparently is something boardrooms really consider on behalf of this multi-stakeholder audience, including, of course, investors. So we heard the word alphabet soup, and I think it is important to understand what alphabet soup means, or let's demystify it. And if you like this slide, then it's fine. If you don't like it, blame my friends at TNFD, because I stole it from them, with their permission. But what does it say? And what we try to say here is what is exactly happening and who is playing which roles. There is so much misunderstanding at all levels in business, investors, regulators, accountants. What is the difference between a standard and a framework? Questions we get. Should we still use GRI? Now we have TCFD. I would say yes, because the one is a framework with its metrics, and the other one is a format to report on. Question we got in the United States was, should we report under ISSB? Now we will see SEC rules. I would seriously consider doing it, because that will become a global standard being implemented in many jurisdictions. So we can go on and on and on and on. So what we basically want to state in this slide is that you typically see that the frameworks are being powered by a certain event, Paris Agreement or the biodiversity framework for nature, for climate, that the standard setters take it upon them to build the basically reporting basis that enables businesses to report in a comparable manner on behalf of their stakeholders, so they can make calculated decisions based on facts and not on perceptions. And especially when it comes to sustainability, there are many misconceptions of the role businesses have, positive and negative. And then, of course, the standards will be adopted or not into local regulations and local legislations. So it is not that difficult. If you know who is doing what and why, then it's quite easy to understand the landscape. And there is no alphabet soup when it comes to standard setters. You have as the major players the ISSB, our friends of the ISSB. You have ESRS Europe with EFRAG. You have in the US the SEC now. And of course you have GRI, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not a real soup. If we pass the misunderstanding, then we get to what is then the big difference between what we see and what we do with the ISSB, and on the other hand, what's happening with within GRI. Okay. The by now mythical proportions of the discussions on materiality. If you look at ISSB, focus, investors, and indeed the value creative or destructive effects these topics can have on the bottom line of an organization. ISSB and SEC have a mandate on that specific topic. So what are the effects of environmental issues on the bottom line of the organization? Very important. Without knowledge about that one, without profitable organization, who is going to pay for the transition? We at GRI love profitable organizations. Who would benefit from loss-making organizations? No one. Then if you look at the GRI side, we're a bit different. We are on impacts. We are about what are the effects that businesses have while pursuing their strategic objectives on the environment and on socio-economic topics. That is more or less inside out. If you combine the outside in with the inside out, you have the two sides of the same coin. And you could translate that into what Europe calls double materiality. According to my friends at MIT, they don't like that. They like inside out, outside in, but okay, that's MIT. But you see, it is not that difficult. And there you see already the logic that we combine our efforts with the ISSB and that we are indeed at the core of the impact side of ESRS, also in order to reduce additional burdens and cost of compliance, to keep stable what's already stable there. And because we exist for 25 years, more than 11,000 users use us, Europe was seeing the benefits of our co-creation agreement. Not that difficult if you get to the basis. So now let's also demystify some things we hear about the why using GRI, now there is ISSB, why using GRI, now there is ESRS. To come with the last, we are a global standard. Not only European, but global. So assume you are a user of our standards and ISSB pops in. And ISSB, as you've seen, S1, S2, we are a bit further, but we exist 23 years longer. So why would you start to report less? than you currently do if you report under GRI? Why should you report less if in your corporate strategy sustainability is embedded as an integrated part of your organization moving forward? If you look at where we are heading to in the future, and if you look at our memorandum of understanding, and we will in the fireside chat discuss that further, you will see that GRI and ISSB will move along hand in hand and support each other with specific topics in order to create as much alignment as we can. The other part is that we see an increasing interest of investors in GRI type of information. Just had a roadshow in the US, and engaging there with investors, they see the inside-out information, the information about environment, longer-term environment and socioeconomic topics as longer-term risk management. If you do not mitigate these risks as a business, in the end, they will bite you financially. That's also, but we will not go into details in that, some legislation in some US states, anti-woke legislation, is in fact pushing boardrooms into forsaking their fiduciary duty towards their investors and their communities. We'll not go too much into detail about that one, also looking at the time. Besides, we already know now for 2 years there is ISSB and there's ESRS. Why then is the uptake of our standards still growing? Ask yourself those questions if you are in your boardroom and you are confronted with why GRI, now we have ISSB. It's not about choosing between them, they strengthen each other. And we will come in the not too far future with a roadmap on how to use GRI and ISSB together in a most efficient, low-cost manner. But with all the technical stuff that we have been discussing here and these nice pictures, why are we doing this? Why are we all doing this? Of course, the main objective is to make this planet a happier, healthier, more inclusive place for all of us. And let there be absolutely no misunderstanding, the standard, and the filed standard, is just the end of a set of transactions, events and impacts that follow through an entire supply chain event. But the end report is also the beginning of a new future. Where can we improve? What has been done? Where can we benchmark? It's not an objective on itself. And although Hiroshi and Patrick and I can discuss for 7 months and still disagree with each other on the difference between the concept of alignment and interoperability, and still not agree, of course, we must not forget that at this very moment we are having those technical discussions. People are dying of overheating in India. The Netherlands lost in the last 30 years 60% of its biodiversity. And equal pay and diversity are by no means common ground and accepted across the globe. So let us be very careful in never to forget why we as standard setter, you as users and investors take interest in this topic. We are just a small tool in trying to make this world a better place and trying to transform global supply chains and value chains. Thank you very much. you.